Ever had a project explode in your face? The client's email feels like a death sentence. The numbers don't lie, and the team knows it. This one's a disaster. You weren't the only one involved, but somehow the failure's being blamed on you. And in the hushed post-mortem meeting, you feel the atmosphere crystallize. One by one, the gaze of every manager, every peer, settles not on the flawed strategy, not on the broken process, but on you. You've been drafted, not for a medal, but for a role in a very old, very efficient play. You've been cast as the scapegoat. This isn't about your performance. It's about institutional physics. A distributed collective failure creates systemic panic. It implicates too many people, too many departments. It's unmanageable. So the organization performs its most reliable calculus. It collapses that sprawling, terrifying cloud of blame into a single, solid, manageable point of failure. That point is you. The real question isn't, what did I do wrong? It's, what made me the most logical and efficient choice to absorb this shock? And more critically, once you see the selection algorithm, what moves are left that don't end with you being professionally buried? When the spotlight of blame hits, people almost always freeze into one of three classic pre-programmed responses. Watch yourself in these. Which one is your default setting? Response 1, the barrister. When the blame hits, it feels personal, doesn't it? You'll either fight it, take it quietly, or try to work the system behind the scenes. But every reaction has consequences. Let's break down what happens when you try to defend yourself or when you decide to take the fall. You flowchart the doomed approval process. You will prove conclusively that the failure was upstream, downstream, anywhere but here. Let me show you the replay. A brilliant data lead in Austin did this. Her forensic timeline was impeccable. She demonstrated that the marketing team had changed the core metrics after the model was built. She was factually heroic, and she was sidelined within a quarter. Why? Because she proved the organization wrong, not herself right. The system's priority is narrative cohesion, not factual purity. Challenging the official story makes you the story's villain. You win the debate and lose your career trajectory. The takeaway isn't she was right, it's she's difficult. Response 2, the silent absorber. You take the hit. You tell yourself it's for the greater good, that quiet sacrifice will be remembered, that loyalty is its own reward. This is a profound misreading of corporate memory. Corporate memory is a database, not a biography. In a Zurich private bank, a VP once accepted responsibility for a compliance oversight that was, in reality, a deliberate policy ambiguity exploited by senior partners. His personnel file didn't get a comment field saying "took one for the team." It got a hard-coded risk flag, involved in Q2 regulatory incident. That flag became an immutable attribute, automatically filtering him out of high-trust client portfolios and leadership pipelines for years. Your noble silence isn't recorded as virtue. It's processed as a confirmed liability. You become a living, breathing data point in your own permanent record. Response 3, the shadow diplomat. You avoid the formal inquest and work the informal network. You schedule discreet lunches. You make appeals framed as just giving some context. You seek a quiet pardon from a powerful ally. This path often reveals your entire hand and then burns it. You are publicly mapping your own desperation, showing who you fear and who you think can save you. At a Paris-based media conglomerate, a creative director tried this after a high-profile campaign flopped. His private, context-giving sessions were interpreted not as clarification, but as an attempt to build a faction, to pit one executive against another. The failed campaign was a business error. His perceived insubordination and political gamesmanship were a character indictment. He wasn't managed out for the flop. He was removed for cultural misalignment. The system punishes perceived conspiracy far more harshly than admitted failure. So, if prosecuting your case, silently enduring, and back-channel lobbying are all traps, what terrain is left? The moment you react on their emotional or procedural terms, you lose. You must stop reacting and start diagnosing the protocol itself. This requires asking 3 dispassionate diagnostic questions. Diagnostic layer 1, the accusation's resolution. Here's the real question. What if the blame isn't even yours? What if they're just fitting you into a narrative? Let's dive into the diagnostic layers, because the real story isn't about what you did, it's about how you're being used. The first step, understanding how the system frames the accusation. Are you really the problem, or is this a larger issue in disguise? Is the charge against you a high-resolution image of a specific action, or is it a low-resolution blob of guilt-adjacent concepts? Lack of ownership, inadequate oversight, communication breakdown? If it's blurry, you're not being charged with a crime. You're being fitted for a narrative function. Your function is to be the reason we can now move on. Diagnostic layer 2. Your systemic disposability. On the organization's internal balance sheet, are you a low-cost asset to write down? Run the checklist. High replaceability. Is your skill set common? Available technicality? Did you miss a minor deadline, skip a non-essential step that can be weaponized? Peripheral trust status. Are you outside the innermost circle of decision makers? The more check marks, the higher your score on the Sacrificial Efficiency Index. You're not being judged. You're being audited for your utility as a pressure valve. Diagnostic layer 3, the ritual's true endgame. What is this entire process designed to produce? Is it a corrective action or merely a conclusion? Are leaders seeking a root cause to fix, or are they simply seeking a name to attach to the incident so the spreadsheet can be closed and the quarterly report can be finalized? If the primary goal is narrative closure, to have a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, then you are participating in an accountability ritual, not an investigation. If your diagnostic result is low-res accusation, high sacrificial efficiency, ritual of closure, then understand this clearly. You are not experiencing a performance review. You are witnessing a pre-programmed corporate stress test response. The institution is conducting a controlled demolition, collapsing its distributed failure onto a single pre-designated load-bearing column, to prevent the whole structure from being questioned. This diagnosis changes everything. Your role is no longer defendant. It is crisis archaeologist. Your task is to excavate the real failure from beneath the ceremonial blame. This is where it gets interesting. To move beyond being a victim of this system, you need a tool that flips the script. It's called the blame stratigraphy map. By breaking down where the blame truly lies, you'll be able to see through the corporate smoke and mirrors. If you're not ready to map this out yet, you're missing the key to understanding this whole process. 1. Take a physical piece of paper. Draw a small central core. Label it My Direct Action, Inaction. Here and only here, list things you personally did or failed to do that had a direct, unambiguous causal link to the problem. Be brutally honest. 2. Draw a second, larger layer around it. Label it the collaborative haze. This is the territory of group decisions, murky handoffs, assumptions you inherited, advice you gave that was ignored. 3. Draw a final, vast outer layer. Label it the broken terrain. This is the landscape. The unrealistic launch date mandated from above, the understaffed team, the legacy software everyone knew was a liability, the market shift no one predicted. Now, take the official statement of blame. Where does it claim the fault lies? If they are presenting an issue that clearly belongs in the vast broken terrain as if it originated solely in your tiny direct action core, you have uncovered the truth. This isn't accountability. This is strategic liability compression. They are using you to quarantine the moral hazard, to create the illusion that a systemic infection has a local treatable source. This exercise's power isn't exoneration, it's clarity. It moves you from the helpless, emotional question of, why are they doing this to me, to the empowered analytical observation, I see. They are running the standard liability containment playbook, version 2.3. You are no longer a victim of chaos. You are an analyst observing a predictable protocol. Once you start mapping out the blame, you'll see this isn't just about personal failure. It's a system at work. And understanding that system gives you the power to rewrite the rules. But what happens when you follow all the rules and the system itself is flawed? That's where the real danger lies, and we'll explore how to navigate this next time. Your frustration doesn't magically vanish, but it is demoted from the main event to background noise. In its place, you gain procedural awareness, the single greatest asset for navigating bureaucratic games. And this awareness leads to the next inevitable question. What happens when you study this playbook, internalize it, and execute your own role flawlessly? What happens when you follow every rule, protocol, and order to the letter, and the failure occurs through the flawless execution of a flawed system? How does the machine manufacture a culprit when the only culprit is the machine's own design? That is the far more subtle and dangerous level of the game. And that is precisely what we will deconstruct next time in L3-12. Why following all the rules can still get you fired.